Ayurveda understands is that these forces dominate at different times of the day, and that's what this Ayurvedic clock is based on. So we can see that, let's say, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. approximately. Now, I want you to not be so pedantic about the exact times, but understand that it's based on how we are physiologically responding to where the earth is in relationship to the sun. And this actually creates a physiological response in our body. And so that's why there are different forces. And it also creates a physiological response in the environment. So these forces are showing up in the environment. So if we look at the clock, we can see that between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. approximately is Vata time, which is air and ether and this sense of lightness. And if you think about ether, it's like the etherical space and all of this stuff. And there's a sense of lightness. And then as the sun starts to rise, we get Kapha, which is water and earth, which is more heavy and dense. And if you just think about this in the environment for a moment, as the sun rises, dew forms on the grass. Now, what was dew before it was little droplets of water, which is what dew is? What was it before that? It was vapor, which is the air, the etheric form of water, H2O. And then as the sun rises, a density arises, and it becomes a droplet of dew. So what we want to recognize is that as the sun rises, a density arises and we go into the Kapha force. Before the sun rises, in that like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., it's very airy, etheric, light, movable. And we see this in people, if you just have a moment and think about this, who's woken up between that time, like 2, 3, 4 a.m., and you can't sleep and you're even anxious and you're kind of restless and you kind of are going, God, I wish I could go to sleep, but I can't. And then suddenly your alarm clock goes off and it's 6 a.m. and you're just like, I'm so tired and so heavy and now I don't want to get up. So that's kind of how it shows up in people and in humans as well. So between 6 and 10, it goes into the denser Kapha time. And whenever it's dense in Kapha time, if we do things like eat really heavy food and stagnate our body and not do anything, then it's more density and we start to get out of balance. So what we're always thinking about when it comes to this Ayurvedic clock is how can we live in alignment to whatever forces are arising in nature right now? And there's a really simple principle that we repeat again and again in Ayurveda that is like increases like and opposites balance. So the opposite of the air and the ether of the 2 a.m. time period would be grounding earth. So if we're out of balance in that time, we do things to ground ourselves and we sleep and we learn strategies, which is what we're going to do, to be very grounded in our sleep so that we're not restless and getting poor sleep. In the morning, we're going to be learning strategies so that we're not getting too heavy and weighed down and lose our energy in the morning. We're going to be learning how to stimulate it and move it so that we're balanced. And then when we see this clock and we come into the later part of the day, when the sun is highest in the sky between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., this now is Pitta time, which is fire element. And as you can see on this clock, in the body, it shows up most as bile because all primates produce the most amount of bile when the sun is highest in the sky, which means we have the greatest digestive capacity at this time. So we're going to be learning about how to eat in alignment to this clock as well, and what's appropriate and what's not and why. So then after the Pitta fire time of the middle of the day, it goes back into air time. But this is again, same time period between 2 and 6, but this time afternoon into evening. And again, we have air, but it's showing up slightly differently. And just presence, if you have ever felt, suddenly it's the afternoon and you're flighty and you can't focus, and suddenly you're anxious about things that you weren't anxious about before, and everything's a little bit like, what am I doing? Well, this is just air time of day, and that's really, really common. So again, like increases like and opposites balance. We want to be employing techniques and principles and ideas that help us bring the opposite element of air into the earth and find balancing in this way. And then we go again into the 6 to 10 o'clock, which is kapha. So again, we're in earth and heaviness, and this is evening time. And we should be winding down. We should be feeling tired. We should be preparing our body to drop into deep sleep and rest and nourishment. And if we're not dropping into deep sleep and rest and nourishment, then we're going to go into the 10 to 2 o'clock hour, which is again fire, but this time nighttime fire. And if we don't wind ourselves down by the nighttime, by 10 o'clock really, that what often happens is we get the infamous second wind between 10 and 2, and it's really hard to fall asleep until after midnight. And this is what I loved when I was in uni and I'd go out partying, or when I really needed to write that paper that I'd procrastinated until the day before to do. And then suddenly you hit that second wind and you're awake. But if we do this all the time, we're not going to be getting good sleep. And if we don't get good sleep, we're not going to have good energy, and our health is going to deteriorate. So don't worry about trying to take all this in all at once. This whole program and all of our yogi habits very specifically are designed to teach us incrementally how to live in alignment to this clock, because when we live in alignment to this pulsation of nature, we thrive, we feel our best, and we are our most vital. Oh.